did that, though, I want to take real quick because I wanted to talk about this Allgemeiner story because it'll tie right into the Greenblatt stuff and the ADL stuff. But this, I think, is very interesting. Someone sent this to me today. Thank you for sending that. And it's from February 3rd from the Allgemeiner, which is a Jewish... It sounds like a German word, right? And it actually is a German word, but it's a Jewish paper in America called Allgemeiner. And ordinarily, you might think, okay, this is just typical Jewish kvetching, right? No. So, Brooklyn College facing federal civil rights inquiry over hostile environment for Jewish students.
Kristen Clark. I thought Kristen Clark was a black nationalist.
Right. Oh, Kristen Clark is the one. It says actually this. I don't know that this is the Department of Justice. This is the. Oh, okay. It says the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. So every fucking government department has their own, right? Has their own. But check this out.
Many private companies do too now, by the way. But
yes, they have their the Office of Civil Rights or something like that.
Diversity, inclusion.
Right, yeah. Oh, they've all got diversity. And it's always a black woman that is like the chief diversity officer. And she's always basically, that's like how...
That's a commissar.
Yes. That's like it's like the Nobel Peace Prize of the corporate world. It's like the one high position in a company that a black person has.
Right.
Like they made it the Nobel Peace Prize just so they could give blacks Nobel Prizes. I have to admit,
though, the ones I've seen are often white women. Just out of college.
HR staff is usually white women. The diversity officer is always black. Yeah. The person who's chief diversity officer, when companies have that title, that person is always black. They're not going to give that to a white person.
Right, but the people that actually do the work.
Oh yeah, the women that actually do the HR work,
sniffing out bad thing.
Yeah. Yes.
The competent people.
Yes. Or oftentimes they mix it in with their actual job of doing human resources work for the company. But okay, so this I'm just going to read and it's going to materialize to you quite quickly what is happening. Some of you might have seen my post on Telegram earlier today, which will give the game away, but I'm going to go for it anyway. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, OCR, is formally investigating a complaint alleging anti-Semitic harassment of Jewish students at Brooklyn College, a legal advocacy group announced Thursday. Filed in February 2021. Now, this story came out on February 3rd, 2022, so I guess this is just maybe getting some traction now. February 2021 by the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under Law. So let's go Brandeis. The complaint said...
Did you just come up with that now?
No, dude, we already named the show.
That would actually make sense.
Well, we already named the Daily Show of that 3 weeks ago.
Oh, man, that's fucking funny.
No, I came up with it. I did come over
Brandeis.
Let's go Brandeis.
Yeah. That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Later on, I want to show you. I mean, I'm sure people have seen on my Telegram the new FCC nominee.
Wait, what?
Oh, you got to see this, man. You got to fucking see this shit. So they have the Biden administration has nominated a new FCC chair, and this person is like, oh my God,
is this we're worse than Sam Brinton for
No. You have never seen something like this before. Let's finish this first.
All right, we'll finish this story first. Yeah, put a link put it in the chat. Okay, so the complaint said that several Jewish students enrolled in the college's mental health counseling program were repeatedly pressured into saying that Jews are white and should thus be excluded from discussions about social justice. The severe and persistent harassment of Jewish students in the MHC program, that's the mental health counseling, on the basis of their race and ethnicity. No, it's not actually on the basis of their race and ethnicity. Oh. On the basis of their race and ethnicity has created a hostile climate, the complaint said, thereby denying them an educational opportunity in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which bars discrimination at institutions receiving federal funding. I witnessed a Jewish student get told by the professor in front of our whole class to get her whiteness in check. A Jewish student, a witness to the events described in the complaint, told the Allgemeiner, speaking anonymously, due to fears of retaliation, my fucking ass. The people getting retaliated against are the school and all these wokies at Brooklyn College. These are just blacks that didn't know the shot is what's going on here.
Yes.
Jews came into
Brooklyn College.
Yeah, Brooklyn College. Some blacks got too big for their britches, and they didn't know the shot, and they tried to impose.
Or they just can't tell the difference.
Right. Yeah, no. That's but the same thing is not knowing what the shot is. Like they don't know, right? You know. So
and trust me, that school. I don't know how it is now, but historically, it's all blacks and Jews.
Right.
Brooklyn College. It's just blacks and Jews.
Right. The professor basically said, "There's at least one white person there, though. There's somebody there that's white." The professor said, "You can't be a part of this kind of conversation because you're white and you don't understand oppression." The badgering of Jewish students, they said, became so intense that one student said in a WhatsApp group chat that she wanted to strangle a Jewish classmate. This happened after the student was told by the professor that she should get her whiteness in check. They continue. This is still the story from the Jew reporting to the Allgemeiner. I stood up for her because I didn't feel it was correct to say anyone was going to get strangled, and I thought that was extreme. So I tried to stick up for her, and because I did, I was told that I'm just white privileged and should be quiet. The complaint alleged that Jewish students complained to Brooklyn College administration about the conduct of both students and professors, some of whom distributed articles supporting the argument that Jews are white. They were told to keep your head down. Now, this starts starting to sound like some bullshit. Like, I'm starting to get, like, vibes. But, like,
they're going to embellish it.
Yeah. I was told to accept the status quo, the student told the Allgemeiner. I was very upset, and I want to understand why. And what really bothered me is that I watched the administration express its support for other minority groups, but then would just leave out Jewish students that were in the program. I just felt like no one had my back. Oh, right. Okay. A Jew saying no one had their back. Meanwhile,
except for like the federal government?
What about like the federal government? What about like the entire media complex, the federal government, multiple racial advocacy organizations and everything? It's just like, come on,
lawyers.
Yeah, I know. You know, what's funny is that white people legitimately don't have anyone having their back, and you never hear white people really say this, or they don't even get a chance to say it.
Well, how are you going to say it when you don't have anything to say it through?
When you have nowhere to say it, right? Yeah. Right. Where are you going to say it?
And you don't, because these Jewish groups don't allow it.
Right. Exactly. So now this sounds like some bullshit. MCH student, a Jewish Hispanic woman of color, also complained to the administration that she received a response to the effect of, "Don't think that your skin color or your not being white is going to save you in this regard. This is the narrative right now, and you need to just get with it." That sounds like bullshit. I guarantee you that's bullshit.
What the?
Yeah.
What the? Jewish person of color?
I was shocked.
That's a new one, by the way, where Jews are pretending that like Jews can be like of any race,
yes,
while also being a race. So it's just more confusion that they add, and they do it on purpose. They confuse it on purpose so that they can be all things to everyone.
Right.
That's what this is all about. I saw Jonathan Greenblatt going around saying, "Well, you know, there are also Jewish people of color, black Jews, and so on." Oh yeah, what does the rabbinate in Israel think about?
Yeah,
that?
where is black Jews? You mean the ones they sent back to Chicago?
You mean the ones in Uganda who actually practice Judaism, unlike most Jews in Israel, and still aren't allowed to move to Israel? Those black Jews, because that's just something to get in good with the wokes, you know.
Right, and the black Jews, they said the ones that moved from America, like a group of like essentially black Hebrew Israelites, like when Israel became a state, some black bus driver from Chicago like got a bunch of blacks from Chicago and moved them to Israel, and Israel at the time was less secure both diplomatically and just generally than it is now, and they knew the race stuff was going crazy in America, and they probably didn't want to piss off America by saying no to these blacks, so they let them in, probably to get some kind of clout in America. But
was it in the 60s?
Yes, it was in the 60s. It was literally in the 60s.
That's in the context of the Black Power movement,
right?
Which was
it was everything. The whole thing,
very anti-Zionist,
right? The whole thing was that, and then they basically put these blacks in their own little settlement right by the nuclear reactor at Dimona. They literally lived right by their nuclear reactor in the desert, and they had their own little segregated town there where they were kept away.
You have to understand the context of black anti-Zionism, which is actually a lot of times a kind of transmuted reaction to how blacks are treated by Jews in America. That's actually what drives. They're not wrong when they say it's driven by anti-Semitism, but black interest in the Palestinian cause is particularly as a kind of indirect way of fighting the Jews in New York and L.A. and so on.
Right. It is, but it's also very. The number of blacks that are involved in that is small because most blacks aren't big thinkers. So they, they're not. Most blacks don't even know anything about this stuff. But yeah, they are. You will get the occasional educated black person that will. But then see, it's so because there's so few of them. And they're not really that threatening. Jews can just buy them off or silence them, or they can just deal with them.
When we get to the Greenblatt book, there's all kinds of shit about that. Nick Cannon, Whoopi Goldberg. Now they don't just buy them off; they fucking beat them down, and then when they're crawling on their knees, give them a chance for redemption,
right?
By doing the ADL's anti-hate course. In fact, Jonathan Greenblatt says. People have a right to be forgiven for their sins. They can actually stand before the ADL. He has an anecdote in it about some black guy. Oh, we'll go.
Let's not get to that because you're just going to get right into it because I only started reading it this morning and yeah, it's pretty hilarious. But I just wanted to point something out here about this story. Now we could continue reading the article, but there's kind of no point. I think everyone gets the idea.
Yeah.
So what is funny here is that now it actually does get. There's a little bit more here I wanted to read. Speaking to the Allgemeiner, Brandeis Center Attorney District Denise Katz-Prober argued that Jews...
Ugly names.
Listen to this. Speaking to the Allgemeiner, Brandeis Center Attorney Denise Katz-Prober argued that Jews should not be relegated to a category of white privileged oppressors. I think the problem is that the college is setting up a zero-sum game in the fight against bigotry and discrimination. Katz-Prober said, "We can't allow administrators to pit one group against the other and suggest that calling out discrimination against some means tolerating it against others. That's unfair and impermissible under the law." So basically, there's an assumption that Denise Katz-Prober is making, which is that whites are just going to be discriminated against.
Right.
White people are going to be treated like they're going to be excluded from conversations. They're going to be told to shut their mouths. They're going to be told to sit down and keep their heads down and shut the fuck up. The issue here is just that Jews were mistaken for being white. And so, and probably when they got into arguments over this with the blacks saw, because what they see is this, that the white privilege stuff is a way to gain power over your other fellow students, or teachers over students, or students over teachers, or whatever. It's a power dynamic at play.
Right.
Whoever is labeled the white privileged oppressor is on the losing end of the stick. They're on the short end of the stick. They lose that power struggle, and that's kind of the rule of the game. And so these blacks, who some of them may not know the difference, or some of them might actually not like Jews, but don't have any way to express it, were kind of probably saw Jews saying, well, we're having this discussion on race, and since there are not many whites at Brooklyn College, we're having this discussion on race, and these Jews are they're trying to weasel out of it. Like, we were given this power. We were told we could do this. We were told we could bring people into struggle sessions, and we could torture them, and we could make them feel humiliated in class, and we could exercise our will over them that way and get them to kneel and be obsequious to us. We were promised all of this, and these Jews... or these people are trying to unprincipally weasel out of it. They're white too. And of course, Jews being the most privileged people on earth, and Brooklyn Jews, these Jews are all wealthy, and they're richer than the black kids, and the black kids know it. I
have to correct you there. These Jews that go to Brooklyn College, those are more the denim skirt types. They're more like the Orthodox types.
Sure, so they've got more money than blacks.
They're wealthy, but they don't really show it off.
They don't really show.
I'm sure the blacks have more bling bling.
Probably dress more flashy, but in any case, I understand that dynamic too. But a lot of them are also just Jews still in that neighborhood or whatever. But the point is this: it doesn't matter. The issue here is that the blacks, this is why there was acrimony that became heated, right? But the point is, the whole discussion shows that one, the thing that Jews aren't white. Okay, fine. So now we have an official thing where, like, literally Brandeis University legal scholars are saying Jews aren't white. Okay, fine. Like, we don't. That fight is basically over. Like, I don't know who even anymore wants to have that argument. And the more Jews stigmatize and undermine the idea of whiteness and white people, the less you're going to see them wanting to be white. Like, when Andrew Morantz spoke with me, he wrote in his article that when I was talking about him as if he wasn't white, he was pretending, for whatever Gentile audience was dumb enough to believe it, that this was a shock to him that he wasn't white. And I'm like, guy, you fucking kidding me? I'm the first one that told you you're not white?
Well,
get out of here.
Jews might be white in a sense, but they're not European.
Well, the point,
Aryans.
The category of white has more context than just like the description of your skin color. Like it's
right.
and obviously they're not Aryans, they're not Europeans, but Morantz was being totally obtuse with me. Like he knew well the distinction, and he knew
they always do that.
He understood how I was making the distinction.
They pretend
as well.
not to hear you,
and he pretended like this was a shock. And what he wants to do is like make you explain it in a way that is like, so that he can like pick it apart and like do what you're explaining, so you're losing thing. Like, oh, really? But and he also just lied to his audience when he said it surprised me to find out I wasn't white. The first person that ever told me this was Mike Painovich. I'm like, bull fucking shit. Bullshit.
Well,
but
I'll say this: you're going to see probably the Populism Inc. people, the Yoram Hazony people, get on this like flies.
Oh, you better believe it.
They're
it's
going
already
to be
in the comments.
Oh, woke out of control. The why race identity politics is off the rails and blah,
well, they're
blah,
not
blah.
gonna. But the thing is, the problem here is that may happen. It might not though, because the thing here is that the underlying assumption of the entire conversation, which is why it's interesting, is that everyone assumes white people are to be oppressed. Mm-hmm. The exclusion, the humiliation, and exclusion of whites from conversations is just what we're doing. It's just what's happening. It's to be expected. And the Jews are just like, they're just mad that they weren't exempted. They're like, yes, you do this to whites, but we're supposed to be exempted. And so that begs a question then, when she says the problem is about the fight against like racism and intolerance. So then like every white person is classed as racist and intolerant. Yes, okay. And therefore exempted from educational programs, exempted from being able to speak in class. You know what I mean? So just because of your race, you literally don't get any protections based on race.